It's time for Reason.
When they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace built into the progressive mindset as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible, so if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. When they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation. Here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard. Great to have you along today. It is a pre-Friday celebration. More fun than a human should be allowed to have, especially when we're talking politics on the radio at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's what I'm talking about, baby. I mean, come on. If you're going to wake up in the morning, why not wake up and actually have a little fun, get all fired up, you know, whether it's a political issue, whether it's a social issue, whether you're just frustrated of the day, whether you're just angry that it's 6 o'clock in the morning that you're on your way out to work. It's a beautiful morning out. I mean, here in Wichita, we're seeing the nice lightning storm that Kansas so often gets, or we're getting some good rain. Maybe it's going to cool it off just a little bit. I kind of dig it. Now, it's hard to get moving when it's like this early in the morning, but throughout the day, it's kind of exhilarating, isn't it? Just a little bit. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Boy, we got a show for you today, a heck and a half. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot to get to. David Inserra with the Heritage Foundation. He's going to join us. As you know, there's been murmurs and rumors and whispers in the Washington, D.C. area of an immigration reform bill. Could we see immigration reform before the election? That would be really interesting to actually see. That would be nice. Boy, wouldn't that be nice? If we're worried about a quote-unquote blue wave, which ain't going to happen, but everybody seems to be really concerned about it, then this is the time for us to step up and not only say, oh, look, we have an 18-year unemployment rate. Ha-ha, thank you, Donald Trump. We have the economy that's growing very rapidly. Ha-ha, thank you, Donald Trump. We have the repealing of the individual mandate, so we're on the road to repealing Obamacare. Ha-ha, thank you, Donald Trump. And then you can say that we actually did an immigration reform and maybe we funded the wall. Ha-ha! Success. And then maybe we can actually have some positive reinforcement on that and saying, no, we're not going to give DACA recipients amnesty. No, we're not going to support anchor babies. And, oh, by the way, yeah, if you're here illegally, we're actually going to start enforcing that. So we're going to have that conversation in the 8 o'clock hour with David Inserra. He's with the Heritage Foundation on the latest that they've been able to find out on what the immigration debate looks like at the federal level. We'll also begin getting some of our elected officials onto the program to talk about those as well. So that's coming up at 8 o'clock. But other than that, it's open lines to you today, 316-721-8255. Facebook Live feed is up and rolling as well. Please, please, please go on there, like it, share it, and just leave a comment. Let's get the algorithm going. Get some activity going on to the Facebook Live, as we love having conversations. I love when people actually start getting into debate on Facebook Live, because that's really fun. And let's get some awareness on there, some other people that can actually view that if we choose to do so. I want to start off with this morning, however. And I don't know where we kind of lost this in society or even in politics, but when did we lose our sense of humor in politics? When did we lose it? I mean, come on. Apparently on the progressive side of the aisle, they have a lot of the political comedians, you know, Jon Stewart, that's apparently really funny, and Stephen Colbert, that's apparently really funny, and some of these individuals that try and take the nice little jabs at Donald Trump on a daily basis. I think it's hilarious, and they think it's really comical. When did we lose our sense of humor in politics? Or at least from the conservative side? According to CNN, I don't know if you saw this or not, but as of a couple of days ago, or a bit ago, there was the conversation that President Donald Trump had done with Canada and Mr. Trudeau. As you know, that conversation's been going on, and Donald Trump had proposed the idea of placing a tariff onto Canada with their imports of trade when it comes to aluminum and steel. And they didn't like that very much. Now, as they're going through this conversation, and look, we need to understand the relationship that we have with Canada and with the United States. I mean, conservatives have been against this tariff anyways because we're afraid that this is going to raise up the prices of many goods, and it very well may. And we don't want that. But aside from that aspect of the trade deal, the conversation that we have with the other nations, we cannot show that they are in control of the situation in any way, shape, or form. We're in control of it. And if they try and take control of it, we need to call their bluff and we need to be able to walk away from the conversation. But we have a good relationship with Canada. They're a neighbor. They're a friend. They've been an ally for a really long time. There's no reason to kind of start a fight with them. However, it's kind of like one of those employer-employee relationships to where, one is kind of technically the boss of the other, but you're really good friends. Maybe you've been childhood friends for a long time and you kind of worked your way up the ladder together in the same company, and you're still really good friends, but at the same time, you have to understand the difference between the employer and employee relationship. And at some point, when the employee gets told what to do by the employer, even though you're best friends, then, sometimes you just have to go on to the actual relationship, business side of the relationship and say, yeah, you know what, we got to do this. Or, hey, I need you to do this for me or whatever. And, oh, by the way, it's not going to be very favorable, but we kind of have to make this happen. And it may not be the best situation, but you do it. And that's kind of how the Donald Trump, Trudeau relationship is with the United States and Canada, because there was the joke thrown in during the conversation, apparently, according to a source that reported to CNN, that when they were discussing about the imposed tariffs by the Trump administration targeting steel and aluminum imports coming from Canada, that the discussion got a little heated. And according to the sources, Trudeau pressed Trump on how he could justify the tariffs as a national security issue, which we'll get to in just a second. But Trump, very wittingly, came back and said, didn't you guys burn down the White House? Come on! Now, if you remember, this was a reference back to the War of 1812. Yes, just a little bit ago. Just a few years ago, the War of 1812, it wasn't technically even Canada, as it was a British colony at the time, so it was really the British that actually burnt down Washington, D.C. During the War of 1812. But it's a joke! It's a joke. So now, of course, you have the media coming out, and they are attacking Trump for saying that he doesn't actually know what history is all about, because it wasn't the Canadians. It was actually just, it was just the British. So he doesn't know his history. And, oh, by the way, that was so long ago. How could we possibly even reference that during a conversation on tariffs and the discussion of national security? It's unbelievable how we have no sense of humor in any way, shape, or form any longer. I mean, come on. Wouldn't that be hysterical? And this is one reason why so many people love Donald Trump. Hey, why would you want to impose that? Oh, we're not a national security threat to you. What the heck's going on? Didn't you guys burn down the White House like 200 years ago? Come on. It's supposed to be funny. But yet no one has that sense of humor anymore. Now, when asked about the joke, a source said, quote, to a degree one can ever take what is said as a joke. The impact on Canada, ultimately on workers in the U.S., won't be a laughing matter. So they kind of brushed it off. Yeah, whatever. It's not going to be a laughing matter when we actually see the tariffs go up and everybody's going to be hurting on their jobs and the economy and yada, yada, yada. It's a joke. Give me a break. But no longer are we allowed to have any type of sense of humor. And I mean, come on. I'm just saying, if I was an elected official, I would be kind of witty like that and sarcastic. I'm sarcastic on the air every single day. I kind of wish that our elected officials were a little more sarcastic. I really do. Because then we know that not only are they passionate, but sometimes you just have to throw that in there just to lighten the mood and just to rub people the wrong way sometimes. Sometimes you have to do that, right? Sometimes. You never do that at work, right? You go to work and you're working in the office or you're working on the floor or you're working in the factory, wherever you are, and you go and someone says something and your friends and guys, come on, the bromance that goes on, you take shots at each other because that's just what you do as guys. Or it's someone that really annoys you, so you just make a witty comment. Either way, it's hysterical, or at least that's my kind of sense of humor. Some people may not appreciate that very much, I guess. The idea that we are somehow a national security threat to the United States is quite frankly insulting and unacceptable, Trudeau told NBC's Meet the Press. Now, let's talk about the national security issue. Is Canada going to come here with their army and try and take over the United States? No. Are they a national security threat in that sense? No. Do we have a border that we need to be concerned about with Canada? Maybe, possibly. I mean, I do see if we have an open border there and people are just crossing it willingly, then we have the same amount of an issue as we do with the Mexican border and the southern border as people that potentially could be coming across the border that could be threats. And we need to be concerned about that national security issue there. If you actually remember, there's a lot of the refugees that are here in the United States that did not care to be in the United States because of how we've been, quote unquote, trying to treating them, or we've been trying to ban some of the refugees coming in, or we've been concerned about national security issues. And they said, fine, we're going to go up to Canada because Canada's been very open to accepting them. So there could be some potential threats up there as well. But other than that aspect of it, is Canada going to be a national security threat itself? No, not necessarily, which is why the joke was funny. What we do need to be concerned about, though, is you could tie in the national debt as a national security issue. And we need to remember that. Maybe we should start using this as an argument when it comes to our elected officials going up and debating about the budget and the appropriations process and trying to cut some of the spending and trying to get our budget under control, and because that needs to be considered a national security issue. It really does. If our government ends up defaulting on our debts, if our government cannot pay its bills and we continue to raise the debt ceiling and continue to raise the debt ceiling, continue to spend more than we're actually receiving in, and then we try and raise taxes, and then we try and offset it, and we try and print more money without it actually being backed, and we lower the value of the dollar, and all these different aspects that continue to happen when it comes to our budget, that is a national security issue because our government is not sound, which means the country is not sound, which means we cannot protect the nation that we need to protect in the way that we need to. It's more than just a physical threat of an enemy saying that we want to bomb you or take you over, but it's also the threat that this country could suffer, could struggle at the fault of the Democrats, the Democrats leading it and the establishment leading it, but the fault of the government that cannot keep a sound nation actually running the way it needs to run. That is a national security threat. So I guess if you really want to look at it in that sense, when we're talking about tariffs and we're talking about trade and having really, really bad trade deals with other nations, even our friends and allies, when they're really close to us, and we have to put this on, it's kind of, again, like that employer-employee kind of relationship where that employer says, yeah, you know what, we've been friends for 30 years. We grew up as children together. We're great friends. Here's what I need you to do. It's time to set that aside for just a second. Here's a business thing, and this is what we got to do. And sometimes that causes a little bit of tension for a while, but you know what you do? You throw in a witty, sarcastic comment, you call him a jerk and, hit him on the shoulder and give him a bruise, and then you go out and have a beer after work that day and then talk about it. That's what you do. That's the way guys operate. That's the way that friends operate. And that's the way that our close allies need to operate as well. That's the way relationships work. Whether you like it or not, that's just kind of the reality of it. 316-721-8255. Is it a funny joke, or are we just going to take offense to everything that apparently Donald Trump does because, well, he doesn't know history because it was really the Canadians that burnt down the White House in the War of 1812? Get over yourselves. It's a lot of fun. 316-721-8255, 20 minutes past the hour. I thought that was kind of a fun way to, as we always like to do, poke fun at the progressives, as they have a very lack of sense of humor, although they think they're hilarious when they call Donald Trump a fascist, and that's just a great comedic joke right there. But, Donald Trump says something, and nope, he's not funny. He's just a jerk. Welcome to Politics in 2018, ladies and gentlemen. 20 minutes past the hour. It's a free-for-all. It is a pre-Friday celebration. We got a lot to get to today. Stay right here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
30-year-old man has been ordered to vacate his parents' upstate New York home. You've heard about this story. He's officially moved out of their home, but not before calling the cops on his father. He called for not being allowed back into the home to retrieve his 8-year-old son's Legos from the basement. The evicted son has received $3,000 from conservative radio host Alex Jones to help him move.
What? Are you kidding me? Welcome back into the Voice of Reason, 26 minutes past the hour. So the 30-year-old that was sued to be able to be evicted out of his parents' home, well done. Millennial success right there. Goal accomplished. Being able to be evicted from your parents' home. That's a success rate right there that we should be very proud of. Getting $3,000. Now, apparently he was on Alex Jones's program. I don't know why. Now, look, I'm a fan of Alex Jones. I think he's very entertaining. I think he's a good host. And I just don't understand why he would offer him $3,000 to move. I really don't. Now, the fact that he called the cops because he couldn't get the Legos out of the home. Oh, mon Dieu. Oh, no. You know, Legos are really expensive, and he probably spent all the money on Dungeons and Dragons gear. But nonetheless, he struggled, had to call the cops to be able to get the Legos out of his parents' home as he was evicted. Now, where do I go, man? I just don't know what to do. Like, they were trying to start fights with me. And I guess we can't judge. I've never been in that situation per se, and I mean, you don't know exactly what's happening in the home. The parents may be somewhat jerks as too. That may be a possibility, but at the same time, if you're 30 years old and you have a long hippie hair with a big old beard, then you know you're probably. I'm just saying, you know, probably not the highest ambitions. I'm just guessing. I don't know. And if you're 30 years old and still living at your home, did you go through some issues? Yeah, probably. Guess what? You know what? I was 28 and I lived with my parents or my in-laws for a good year. Actually, right before I moved out here to Kansas, we were living with my in-laws. And we were trying to buy a home and we were trying to pay off some debts and trying to get things under control and trying to do. And I get it. You do it. And that was with a wife and with a newborn baby. But guess what? It was temporary. And I didn't live there my entire life. Now, I understand all circumstances are different. I'm not going to judge in that sense, but I just don't get it. I don't get it. And you have to be sued to be evicted from your parents' home because you don't have a whole lot of go do so. And then a conservative host, even of that, you know, getting you on the show and giving you $3,000 to move out of your parents' home so you can start all over again. And then having to call the cops in order to get the Legos. There you go. It is the epitome of what millennials... the ones that embrace millennialism look like. I'm not going to say all millennials because obviously I'm one and that's not the case. There are a really large amount of millennials that actually don't identify that in any way, shape, or form. But the ones that embrace the millennialism that probably, you know, sit in the corner and use their adult coloring book and pet their therapy dogs or their therapy llamas or whatever they like to use, they're the ones that may be having trouble moving out of their home. 316-721-8255. I just find it funny. The story never ends. The story continues on all the time. You would think that after a story like this, you would be really, really embarrassed and you wouldn't want any more media coverage on this. And you just say, you know what, I'm going to bow out. I'm going to go and I'm going to go start my life and go do something. You would think, but it's almost like he enjoys. While he's saying, by the way, my business is my business, leave me alone, I don't want it, he continues to allow the media to cover him, and this has been a story that's been ongoing for a while, which shows that even though you say, I don't want any media coverage, you're actually hoping that the media continues because you want to try and demonize your parents for making you move out of your parents' home. I don't get it. I could not wait to leave my parents' home, and I love my parents to death, could not wait to leave. I will live in a, I don't know what, in a little mud hut before I had to move back to my parents' house. Why? Because, well, it's just a guy thing other than the fact that you're just kind of an independent free thinker of, I will figure it out on my own and I will do what it takes to take care of my family without having to do that. I don't know. Nothing against the parent thing. I just like to be a little independent. Bottom of the hour news coming up. There you go. Millennial update of the day. This is your show. It's The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Your home for entertaining radio.
This is your fault, too, man. I keep missing Rush Limbaugh's morning update every morning because I'm listening to your show.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Making it happen. Welcome into The Voice of Reason. Starting off a Thursday morning. It's kind of a boomy Thursday morning. It's actually funny sitting here in the studio and hearing all the booms happening out there with the thunder. Kind of distracting. I can't work in these conditions. Actually, I find it quite exhilarating. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It is a pre-Friday celebration. Let's enjoy it as such, shall we? We got one more day. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though it may be a flashing light. Don't go towards the light. Your thoughts and calls coming up in the 8 o'clock hours. I mentioned David Inserra with the Heritage Foundation. We love chatting with them. Great organization, and looking forward to talking with them about immigration policy in just a little bit. Until then, let's go to the phones. What do you say? 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, it's Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, sir?
Oh, man, I'm living the dream out here, brother.
You're out in the booming. Have you gotten rained on yet today?
A little sprinkle, but nothing major.
Right on. There you go. That's a good day right there.
Right? But no, I'm calling in about this loser living in his parents' basement.
Come on. Who gives him $3,000 to help move out as a conservative talk show host and says, yeah, you know what, we're going to help you out because you've been demonized too much by a young millennial who has to be taken to court to be evicted out of your parents' home. Come on.
That's ridiculous.
What is this?
And the funny thing is, personally, I've had a job since I was 8 years old, working in tobacco fields or something. And I was a pretty wild kid, so I got locked up when I was 13 in reform school. And when I was 15, I got out and went back to, got a job, and I was paying my bills, and my stepfather started, this is my house, it's my rules. I'm like, okay, I can afford my own place. See you later.
Exactly. And that's what you would think that's what most kids end up doing. And especially as being a quote unquote rebel by being a wild, wicked free thinker, man, and being a progressive who doesn't like anybody to tell them what to do. The millennials that enjoy that type of lifestyle and embrace the millennialism that live in their parents' home until the age of 30. Doesn't that go against the entire mentality of them being a wicked free thinker and actually wanting to do their own thing and not being told how to live their life?
Well, see, the truth of it is, conservatives, we want to be responsible for ourselves. The liberals, they want somebody to take care of them. They just don't want to admit it.
That is true, and they like people to take care of them, whether it's their parents, whether it's an organization, or whether it's the government itself holding their hand and walking them through. But at the same time, again, I guess this is the double-edged sword of hypocrisy when it comes to progressivism. But at the same time, while they want someone to hold their hand, they're also supposedly the wicked free thinkers. I was called yesterday. I got onto a nice little banter with a social media on Twitter, a nice little debate on health care and if it's even constitutional to have universal health care and yada, yada, yada. And I had mentioned where it's up to you and I as the individual to make the best decisions and have a choice on what kind of health care that we want to have as an individual. And then I was the individual I was debating with said, well, you know what, you just don't know how to think for yourself. And I thought, what?
Right?
Yeah, I don't get that. I apparently you're a wicked wild free thinker if you only have one option and they hold your hand through the entire process. Then you're a wicked wild free thinker, man.
And the where I go back to is anything that somebody can give you, they can take away.
Sure. Yeah, but they wouldn't do that because they're only out to help us, right?
Right. Oh yeah, they just want what's best for us.
Yeah. Government only wants what's best for us.
Thanks a lot, bro.
Hey,
well, you have a great day.
You as well, Deacon. Appreciate the phone call, my friend. 316-721-8255. The wicked free thinkers, the progressives, man. That's what it's all about. It kind of baffled me. I didn't know how to respond to that one. Because, of course, as you know, I like to throw the wrench in the system and kind of debate a little bit. And just mention, first off, it's not constitutional to have universal health care. Well, yes, it is, because we already have Medicare and Medicaid, and that's actually, if you think about it, you're not supposed to really have that either. Where in the Constitution does the government have the right to control you when it comes to health care and what you can have for health services? It doesn't. Well, of course, I was prepared for the response. Well, the General Welfare Clause. Now, wait a second. The general welfare doesn't say anything about the welfare of people. That's if you actually, understand kind of what they're saying. The welfare means the welfare of the state, meaning the state of the country and making sure the country is healthy and it's prospering and it's doing well. That would be the welfare state. Because that's what they're talking about in that phrase. Yeah, but the country can't be healthy if people are dying in the streets and they don't have any health care. So get the government out of it. And we went round and round and round and round and round and round. And of course, I was anticipating the response of exactly what they were going to say this entire time until they said, well, you just don't know how to think for yourself. Which completely threw me for that loop, because if you're thinking for yourself, then that means you probably have the choices that you want and that you can make your own decisions as an individual to be that wicked wild free thinker, to do your own thing, as opposed to having one option and the government actually telling you what to do and what kind of health care you can get and when you can get your health care coverage and so on and so forth. So I don't get it. sometimes, I really try really, really hard on the show. And even outside of the show, when I'm dialoguing with individuals outside on social media, in person, wherever I may be, I try really hard. And I hope it comes across that way as someone who's very curious. I'm a very curious individual. It's kind of like the cat. You got to explore. You got to be the curious kind of creature. You're snooping around. I'm the curious kind of individual to where I want to try and understand where the opposition is coming from. I don't always agree with it. I think sometimes it's completely absurd and ridiculous. But when something does seem really absurd and ridiculous and foreign, I want to understand it and say, okay, this is where they're coming from. Not only for me to understand it, but then for me to be able to counter it as well. And sometimes you just realize that the light bulb isn't really screwed in as tight as you thought it was. Because you hold that standard up to where at least if they're going to be talking about an issue, that at least they know what they're talking about. And you kind of go in with that assumption, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes it really is where the crayon just isn't very sharp in the box, and therefore you just kind of have to move along. And it's sad because I apparently hold way too high of a standard for individuals and just assume that they know what the hell they're talking about. 316-721-8255. The Topeka Capital Journal wrote an interesting piece, and I'm kind of glad that his name's back out in the media a little bit. And we're going to try and get him on the show. I've tried to reach out a couple of times, haven't had any success, but we need to get him on. But Tim Hulskamp, former congressman from the Big Red District out in the 1st District in western Kansas, is the president of the Heartland Institute. As you know, no longer representatives. Now we have Roger Marshall out there, which we need to get him on the show as well. I haven't had him on in a while. But he made a comment yesterday about how the Tea Party and the Tea Party conservatives are not dead. And there's been kind of an ongoing, growing movement that the Tea Party movement is dead and gone, and the conservatives are kind of to the wayside now. And it's not necessarily true. Tim Hulskamp made a comment, quote, "As much as Washington Swamp would like you to think I'm not going away, neither is the Tea Party nor is Donald Trump being president. The insider establishment believes that they have killed the Tea Party movement, but as long as America's patriots are still fighting for her future, the Tea Party movement is alive and well. And if it were up to me, the Tea Party and President Donald Trump would have repealed Obamacare a long time ago." Now, I've been a big fan of Tim Hulskamp, and I think that the Tea Party is by far still alive and well. Do you necessarily hear about them in the mainstream media? No. Maybe they've changed names a little bit. Maybe it's just kind of shifted a little bit. We're always, come on, it is the chess game, the ever-going chess game of life and of politics that we're always trying to play here, and we're always trying to be one step ahead. And the Tea Party movement itself hasn't really been spoken of as of lately, but conservatism, constitutionalism, traditionalism, that is not dead. And actually, we're going back to that, and we're doing that in very large steps, which is why they despise Donald Trump so much, and they despise conservatives so much, because we are advancing this. We are repealing government mandates. We're repealing executive orders. We're repealing big government regulations. We're getting the economy going again. We're focusing on the private sector. We're doing some really great things that lead to what the Tea Party's been fighting for a really long time. The Tea Party is not dead. You and I are the Tea Party. If you remember the whole message of what the Tea Party actually was, it was you and I, we the people, which I don't like to use the term we the people because we're never going to be a unified we the people of everybody uniting together. We can't even do that under the American flag anymore, unfortunately. But we the people, as in the conservatives, the traditionalists, the ones that understand what this country's supposed to be about, we the people, the real people, we're the ones that actually understand this, and we're continuing to fight, and we have a louder voice than we've ever had before. Is Donald Trump a Tea Party constitutional conservative? No, he is not. And that was my biggest issue that I had with him going into the primary elections for president, because he wasn't a Tea Party constitutional conservative when for once we actually had two solid Tea Party conservative, traditionalist, constitutional conservatives that were actually running for president, and Ted Cruz got to be number two when it came to the running until he dropped out and Donald Trump ran away with the nomination. And that's who I supported until the very end. But Donald Trump, what he's done is, me being the eternal optimist as I am every day.
Andy's Optimism of the Day.
All right, I'm ready.
The optimism that we had, and I even said this the day after that Ted Cruz dropped out of the race, and others were very upset about this and kind of, promoted the whole doom and gloom kind of thing, was that the optimism was that Donald Trump is not an idealist. He's not a philosophical type of individual. which means that even though we didn't get a constitutional conservative running for president or to be president, we have that opportunity for us to have that voice again. And guess what? It's worked. Donald Trump, really one of the first presidents to actually sit down and listen to what Rand Paul has had to say, and actually has sponsored and endorsed and promoted and signed Rand Paul legislation. Donald Trump has sat down and listened to Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and has said, you know what you guys are promoting is actually really good. And I like it, and I will embrace it, and I will support it, and I will fight for it, and I will make this happen. And we've done it. We have a louder voice as conservatives right now than we've ever had before. As a Republican Party as a whole, and as conservatives. The sad part is that the biggest obstacle right in front of us from promoting our agenda is the Republican Party and ourselves. We're the ones that are obstructing ourselves. We've created so many scarecrows, like so many politicians do, is that we've created our very own obstacles. The Republican Party right now, we have the majority in both chambers, as we mentioned many times before. We have a massive majority of the governorships in the country. We have a super massive majority of the state legislatures in the country. Why have we not gone back to constitutionalism with many of these states saying we're not going to abide by some of these government mandates because they're not constitutional and that's supposed to be left up to the states? Why have we not completely repealed Obamacare and gone back to private sectorism? Because we have a close margin. We have a few Republicans like Lisa Murkowski and like some of these others that just don't like conservatism. Then you have some of the Republican governorships like John Kasich that just don't like what conservatives actually do, as he claims to be a conservative. It's really confusing to me. It boggles my mind, but nonetheless, there he is. You always have the wild card in politics, I guess. Tea Partyism isn't dead. Conservatism by far is not dead. In fact, we have a louder voice than we've ever had in a really long time, really since Ronald Reagan. We have that voice. And when we rise up for the elections coming up this fall, when we actually start talking about policy changes, when we actually start talking about trying to change what's happening in Topeka for our state government, when we start looking at what's going to happen at the federal level when it comes to taxes, and when it comes to business, and when it comes to education, when it comes to regulation, and when it comes to tariffs, and when it comes to building the wall and immigration, we actually have a voice. Our legislators here in the state of Kansas that represent us at the D.C. level, they listen to us for the most part. And right now is the opportunity to rise up and speak and make our voice louder than they've ever been before, because we can actually make that change. I've told you the steps of what we need to do before is not only get the majority within our own party, but then once we have that majority, begin to refine the party a little bit to what the party actually is going to stand for. Because we are the party. We are the country. We are the voice. We are the people, we are the government, we are the party, and we get to make those decisions. And the only way that we will have that voice and actually make that change is if we do it ourselves. Because I say it every time, but I've learned from a very young age that if you don't do it yourself, it ain't going to happen. And now's the time for us to get her done. I actually had a picture sent to me yesterday of an RV that was completely camouflaged in a camo RV, because my family laughs at me because I'm the, kind of the hillbilly redneck, and I enjoy that. And I embrace that. I embrace that culture. I got no problem with that in any way, shape, or form. That's been a long traditional line in our family. And they said, hey, Andy, look at this. You can use this as a campaign bus. And I think the slogan should be, hey, low taxes will get her done. Hey, growing the economy will get her done. And you put that right on top, and that could be the campaign slogan on a camouflage bus. And I think it would work. Why? Because let me tell you something. The Second Amendment rally that I went to over the weekend last week, that's who showed up. Was the folks that said, you know what? We're sick and tired. We're going to get her done. We're the ones that work, and we are the silent majority because we don't necessarily have the time to go and rally all the time. We're the ones that are the silent majority because we're working all the time. We don't have the time all the time to go and actually make our voice heard, to make a phone call, to write that email, or to go and knock on their doors. But we are the silent majority, and we cannot forget that. And all we have to do is, at least at the very minimum, show up in mass and cast that ballot to make our voice heard, because that vote, when you pull that lever, when you push that button, that is the loudest voice that you can have, and we need to maintain that. Tea Partyism isn't dead, my friends. Conservatism is alive and well, and we are louder and we are stronger than we've really ever been in a really, really long time. This is The Voice of Reason, 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
4 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today on a pre-Friday celebration. Lots more coming up in hour number 2. I want to get into some of the drone debate. Sedgwick County law enforcement, Sedgwick County Sheriff's Department using drones when it comes to searching for individuals and potentially more types of use. We'll talk about that. Plus, immigration and the new immigration bill that may be coming up in D.C. Can we get anything done substantially? That's coming up soon as well. But let's wrap up this hour with a phone call. What do you say? 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Ellis.
Ellis, good morning, sir. How are you?
Just fine. I just wanted to mention something on the man not moving out of his parents' basement.
Yes.
It's another symptom of socialism. They've been pushing this since the 60s. Oh, we'll take care of you. You don't have to do this. Get a useless degree instead of going out and getting a job, because that's what they're importing people, because all the kids that used to go out and get these jobs are being told, well, you shouldn't have to go out and work. You should just let the government or your parents take care of you.
Sure. Absolutely. Now, I mean, I don't know why. I mean, what escalated the parents to do that, other than the fact that he's been there for the last 30 years and he's not very ambitious to go and get a new job or anything. But you're right. I mean, I just don't understand why they are considered the free thinkers while they're the ones that have to have their hand held and not have any options, because all the options are provided to them, as you mentioned, by either the parents or the government under the socialized mentality. Why are they considered the wild, wicked free thinkers?
Well, because they've been told to say that by their masters. Orwell told us how this was going to go, and our government indoctrinators have been working on it for 40 years, 45 years?
It's true.
So,
It's so sad that, and it's really sad, and I take offense to it almost, that my generation's labeled as that such, because there are many that try to embrace that. There are many that don't as well. But, I mean, have you seen young kids like that try to embrace that type of lifestyle?
I have seen some, but I will tell you.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Oh, I think we lost some, Ellis. I hopefully you were going to the sense that you've seen some, but you've also seen some of the hardworking young ones as well, as we know there are many of them that hopefully represent properly. Ellis, I love it. I appreciate the call very much, my friend. That's a great point. I mean, they've been indoctrinated to that sense to where they are the wicked, wild, free thinkers, man, when they're the ones that are not having any options to them, because it's a really tough choice. Life's really tough, and we just need some help, and the government needs to help us out, but I'm a free thinker because I have openly chosen to do that willingly. Wild craziness. This is your show as always. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Hour number 2 of The Voice of Reason. Lots more to get to, lots more to have conversation-wise. We'll get your thoughts and calls on all this and more. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
When they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing, because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace built into the progressive mindset as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible, so if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. When they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on TV, KGBT-TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard. Great to have you along today on a pre-Friday celebration. The booming happening outside in Wichita here with the storm that's moving along. It's kind of exhilarating. I kind of dig it, and it's a great way to start off your morning. Hopefully, we can wake you up the right way. Whatever that right way is, you can interpret that however you may deem it necessary. But we enjoy it, and we hopefully can get you up and going. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you're going to join in, we got a lot to get to coming up in hour number 3. David Inserra, he is with the Heritage Foundation. going to be talking about the latest discussions that are happening in D.C. when it comes to immigration reform. What are we going to do with DACA? What are we going to do with the illegal problem that we have along with building the wall in the border enforcement? So we'll talk about all that coming up in hour number 3. But until then, it's open lines to you, 316-721-8255. And let's go ahead and start off hour number 2 with a phone call. Shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, it's Deacon again. I forgot to say something.
What you got?
I had a brain fart. Sorry about that. The same people who are advocating for the government health care and screaming for reparations for children as slaves, they're advocating for slavery. Because if the government forces doctors to help people, socialized medicine, whatever you want to call it, then they're saying that they have a right to that doctor's life.
Sure. No, sure. I mean,
they're advocating for slavery.
It is slavery and servitude all around, from the fact that we believe that no one's services are precious and that they actually get compensated for the services that they actually provide. I mean, you being a trash man and going out and doing the trash every single morning, and them saying, yeah, you know what, we really shouldn't pay you for that because it should just be done anyways because I make a lot of trash and therefore I'm just entitled for it to be cleaned up. And I mean, if you did that, I mean, how would you feel about your job saying, yeah, you know what, no longer are you going to do it, I'm assuming? Or, I mean, if someone just says, yeah, you know what, you need to clean it up, but I'm not going to pay you for that kind of service.
Well, I don't remember where I heard it, but somebody said, well, somebody's got to do it. And the answer was, no, somebody's got to pay somebody to do it.
Right. Exactly. And that's what you have to do. You are not entitled to anybody's services. So right there, the person that's actually providing the service is now enslaved because they're working for the state. You want to talk about Nazism? There it is right there, with them controlling the private sector and saying, now you must provide a service for everybody, and we'll pay you a little bit, but it's not going to be based on the individuals that you see, but it's just going to be based on what the government feels like compensating you for, because you make way too much money as a doctor. But then the people that are actually signing up for these services as the consumer, now they're the ones that are just saying we have one choice, and the government's going to tell us how our health care is going to be, what kind of care we're actually going to receive, how often we get that service, and when we get put into the back of the line, because a lot of people need that service as well. And to me, that does not seem like a free-thinking, wicked, wild thinker that actually gets the choice of what they're going to do with their life.
No, and then you end up with the healthcare system like Canada, where their prime minister, I believe it was a couple of years ago, went to Florida for his open heart surgery because they would have killed him in Canada.
But they have the healthcare system, right? We need to have socialized medicine just like them. Come on, what's going on here?
Right.
Craziness.
Yeah, ridiculousness, brother.
Love it.
Have a great one.
Love it. Appreciate the phone call, my friend. 316-721-8255. I want to shift gears just for a little bit. I want to get back to that in a bit, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk about this. I think it's kind of interesting as we are going, and we've talked about this the last few days, more and more technologically savvy and finding new technologies in society and finding ways to make things better. And we kind of talked about the old school ways a couple of days ago, between like the analog clock and the digital clocks, and which direction we're going to be going. Many schools actually getting rid of the analog clocks because, especially in the UK where that story came from, because the students were becoming more stressed because they didn't know how to read analog clocks during tests, and that was affecting their test scoring and their test taking because they didn't know how much time they actually had left to take the test. And that was a big fun. We poked some fun at it, but then we had the caller who said, wait a second, isn't it just the digital age anyways, and we're going towards that way? So why teach them the analog clock when we could just have the digital clock and just be done with it? And it kind of created an interesting conversation. Well, when we talk about that same type of discussion when it comes to technological advancements, as you know, the drone is one of the big ones that's been a really hot topical issue, because now we're not talking about private property just on a two-dimensional path of either, just in front of me and the square footage that you have and what land you own and the home you own, but also the air above you, and how you need to license yourself in order to be able to carry the drone and fly the drone and use the drone for certain purposes. And now there's laws in some little towns to where you can shoot down drones if you see them, or there's certain laws to where you're not allowed to peek into your neighbor's home sort of thing, or you can only be in certain spaces. And there's now the discussion of what to do with drones. And the story that came out of Cake TV is the story of Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office that now has 6 certified drones and drone pilots for the county sheriff's department and using the drones for certain purposes. And the big question, of course, is going to be, even if we're not having it yet, we're kind of the forward thinkers. We may not be the free thinkers according to the progressives, but we're the forward thinkers, at least we try to be, on what the drones are actually going to be used for and the purpose of the drones. And right now they've been used to be able to find individuals and do the search and rescue type of operations, to where you don't have to necessarily have to have the foot on the ground, but you can have the overhead view of certain areas in order to try and find someone that you're looking for. And it's been relatively successful. It's been somewhat successful, as last July, drones found 91-year-old Newton man who was missing. Officials found him from above with the drone and was critical to saving his life. Lucas Hernandez, they used that for some of the search efforts for Lucas Hernandez, a little boy that was just found recently dead under the bridge, unfortunately. But the drones have been used in order for the search and rescue type operations. The question is, how long are the drones only going to be used for those types of operations? When do you think that the drones operated by law enforcement are going to be used for other services as well? Going to a domestic dispute in order to record the happenings there so that way you can charge someone properly, going to a 911 call to be able to scout it out properly. I mean, maybe they would take it even to, let's say, maybe the swatting incident that happened that we've discussed so many times before and that's caused a lot of discussion on the show about the swatting and what happened there. Instead of actually having the cops surround the house during a hostage situation, they would send a drone in to kind of scout everything out first. Now, it would take some more time to actually address the issue when we need to address the issue, but according to some, that would be okay. And that would be actually encouraged, is that we don't actually act immediate when there's a call and a distress call about an issue happening, but we actually go and scout it out first and just take longer to do so and use the drone to scout out the situation. Is that used? Now, what if we take it to the next level? We end up putting something on there to be able to incapacitate somebody. And we start saying, yeah, you know what? Someone's running away from the drone. Someone's doing something. The drone got there. The individual sees that the drone's there recording them. They take off running. They end up using a taser on the drone in order to incapacitate somebody. What if we go down that route? I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I mean, these are going to be long-term discussions to have, but it's going to happen at some point. The military is using that already. Local law enforcement will begin to use this to put cops and law enforcement lives in safer hands and to be able to scout out the situation appropriately. When it comes to just as an individual and a personal use of the drone, to where you can only fly in certain areas, you're not allowed to spy on someone's home through their windows or follow them down the road or that sort of thing, are the local law enforcement going to have the same kind of rules and laws in place for them? That unless there's actually reason, are they going to be peeking in somebody's home? Are they going to be looking in certain businesses? I mean, right now we have a big case trying to stop a lot of the South Broadway issues going on and the projects to try and clean up Broadway. With that, what was it, 4 or 5 year plan or whatever it is, are they going to be looking through certain windows to try and catch people in the act of something in order to charge them with certain crimes? Is it going to be used to try and stop maybe some of the drug issues? Where is the line drawn on privacy in today's times, especially when you don't have to have the physical person there, but you can have the drone flying about trying to record and be able to try and catch someone when they're doing something wrong? 316-721-8255 is kind of a concerning issue to have. Now, again, I want to be very clear. I'm not against local law enforcement having drones in any way, shape, or form. I think that they do serve a very good purpose when it comes to some of the search and rescue operations. I think that they do have a purpose to some degree, but when is it going to get out of hand? Let's take it to the next level. Right now, we just saw the big legislation about body cameras when it comes to law enforcement and the public having access to view those body cams if there's an incident that actually happens. And right now, that it's going to be open to the public when requested, or at least open to the individuals involved in it when requested, when there's a trial, when there's a court hearing or something going on in that sense and someone's being charged. When and how should the public be able to access the video footage of a drone when it's recording somebody, when it catches somebody bad? There's a lot of issues, a lot of questions that are being brought up about the new technology, and these are things that we're going to have to address, and I think that it's easier to address the sooner we do so, as opposed to letting something happen and then we have the whole issue, and then the courts and the judges in the judicial branch never making a wrong decision, judging on the wrong side of the aisle on that one. and saying that local law enforcement or military or whoever has the ability for the drones to spy on and record in somebody's home or around somebody's home or in somebody's private space at any time that they want to, if they suspect, quote unquote, the suspicion of something going on. Instead of someone like a human being actually knocking on the door and saying that they have a warrant to go and search the home. There's a big difference there, right? When and where are these lines going to be drawn, and when should we start making these decisions? That's the question I have for you, and I want to get your thoughts on this. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK, 19 minutes past the hour. This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
See it now. I can really see it now as we talk about some of the drones with local law enforcement, with them using the drones for more and more issues. I can see it. We're going to see a new movement against, the local law enforcement, of course, hating minority groups all over the country, and, the big Black Lives Matter movement, what's going on right now. I can see the new movement saying police drones are racist. It's going to happen. I guarantee you we start going more towards the technology, towards the drones, and them being able to scout out certain issues and be able to spot certain issues. And then, of course, it's going to be the drones and the drone users that are now. It's not going to be the officer and him or herself. It's going to be the drone that actually treats people inappropriately. The drone chasing someone down the street as they've robbed a bank, regardless of what skin color or heritage or background or whatever they may have. If someone committed a crime, they robbed a convenience store, they robbed someplace, and the drone's chasing them down the sidewalk, and the drone shoots a little taser dart at them, and they start freaking out and start squirming on the ground until the cops get there to arrest them, sort of thing. And then we see the story. Law enforcement drone treats someone inappropriately. I can see it. Don't you see this happening? This is going to be the new age concern that we're going to have. No longer is it going to be the actual officer that's going to be treated improperly. It's going to be the drone that's going to be, of course, the racist bigot that we need to start hating. So then Colin Kaepernick, when they start kneeling for the national anthem sort of thing, it's not going to be because that the cops are evil pigs like he had worn the socks on, but it's actually going to be the drone. And it's going to be a picture like a drone, like maybe like carrying a pig underneath it or something. I could see it. Don't you? 316-721-8255. It wouldn't surprise me if something like this happens, and as technology is used more and more on a daily basis, even from local law enforcement, even from personal use, that this is going to be the new age issue. It's going to be the drone, the inanimate. Come on, I mean, it's all about the inanimate object, isn't it? The gun is what actually causes the issue. It's not the person behind the gun, but it's the actual gun that is the issue. So therefore, we need to get rid of guns. Unless, of course, it's a cop that uses a gun. Then it's the cop that's bad, not the actual gun that's bad, right? I'm trying to understand this. And then when we use it as a drone, that it's not the cop that uses the drone, but it's going to be the drone. And the drone will be racist. The drone will be the issue. The drone will be the problem. I know this is going to happen. Mark my words that on June 7, 2018 at 7:26 a.m., the Voice of Reason called it that drones will be considered racist as soon as law enforcement begins to use them more frequently. 316-721-8255. I do want to remind you, by the way, starting at next week, we're doing the ultimate KQAM Father's Day giveaway. This is going to be kind of a big deal. We're going to get somebody registered each and every day starting next week. We'll do the drawing. We'll get you the ultimate KQAM Father's Day package, brought to you by Rodin Roofing, 358 South Lower Street here in Wichita, and Auburn Hills Wine and Spirits, 19940 West Kellogg Drive in Goddard. Our two sponsors bringing you the ultimate Father's Day giveaway. Here's what you're going to get. You're going to get 4 ticket vouchers at the Kansas City Royals game of your choice. You can go to any game you want to in the season. 4 tickets to the Wichita Open Golf Tournament, 2 tickets to 81 Speedway race of your choice, and 2 tickets to the Wichita Wingnuts game for July 4th. With right after the game, then you get to see the fireworks as well. It's kind of a cool package. We're going to start registering people next week. So stay tuned in for that. We're really excited about doing this one. We love doing the Ultimate Father's Day giveaway each and every year here on KQAM. KGSO is going to be doing the same thing, but you're not competing with them. You're competing just right here. So you get registered. You're really going to have a 1 in 5 chance to actually win this if you get registered, and it's going to be a really, really cool deal. And we again want to thank our sponsors on that. Roden Roofing. Visit them at rodenroofing.com. That's RHODEN. Roofing.com, along with Auburn Hills Wine and Spirits. Visit them online on Facebook at Auburn Hills Wine and Spirits. We'll get you registered for that starting next week, so stay tuned in for that one, and we'll get you the ultimate Father's Day. Plus, I think this is the appropriate time as well. Starting off this Saturday, 3 p.m. at Riverfest 2018. As you know, Saturday is kind of it's crazy. The last day of Riverfest already. It goes by way too fast, and it's been hopping so far. If you've been hearing Rick Everett down there on our broadcasts at noon right here on the KQAM airwaves. But is our 9th annual KQAM KGSO funnel cake eating contest. Yes, the Masters having 10 minutes to gorge down as many funnel cakes as they possibly can. And these are hearty, too. I don't know if you ever had one of those at Riverfest. They're awesome. And your chance to be able to become the ultimate master, the funnel cake eater. Are you tough enough? Is your stomach tough enough? Can you handle it, baby? I don't know what the record is, but we need to find out what the record is so you can start training and practicing and have a few days to do so. But if you want to get registered for that, it's going to be 3 p.m. at the food court on Saturday. KQAM, KGSO presenting that one. Everybody will get, by the way, a prize just for participating in it because, I mean, just by walking up on stage, you're kind of a trooper anyways. So a T-shirt, a coupon, a gift certificate, whatever we pull out of our magic bag of tricks, we'll have a little prize for you for going up there and participating in the funnel cake eating contest. But you have an opportunity to become the ultimate master of the funnel cake, baby. It's at 3 p.m. on Saturday, and I give you a chance to get registered right now for that. 316-721-8255. Limited seats available. As you know, there's only, like 5 or 10 people that actually go up there on stage for that. So let's get you registered. Lock in your seat for it. Are you tough enough to handle the funnel cake? We'll get you registered right now. Give me a call, 316-721-8255, and we'll get you set up for the ultimate funnel cake eating contest, 9th annual there at Riverfest coming up this Saturday. Bottom of the hour news. When we come back, drama happening with our county commission in this office building, this administration building that we've talked about each week with Jim Howell when we do our weekly update. We'll talk about all that when we come back. This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Patriotism is alive and well. The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today. 36 minutes past the hour on a pre-Friday celebration. Let's enjoy it. Waking you up better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink as we roll right along. 316-721-8255. Waking you up the right way. Technically, the right way. Literally, the right way. This portion of the Voice of Reason brought to you by Riverside Cafe. 3 locations, 2 in Wichita, 1 in Derby. Go and check them out. Home of the 3-pound burger, baby. 9125 West Central Avenue, 739 West 13th Street, and 824 North Baltimore here. They're in Derby. Go check them out, Riverside Cafe. We'll have a complimentary burger and fries for you at the end of the segment. Stay tuned in for that. We love giving this away with your chance to go and enjoy a burger and fries there at Riverside Cafe. Plus, they do have their special going on all summer long that if you go in there with your law enforcement ID, with your military ID, active or retired, you go in, you buy a burger and fries and 2 drinks, you get another burger and fries for free with an equal or lesser value. So there you go. If you are in the military or post-military law enforcement, go, and their little thank you is for you to go and buy a meal with 2 drinks, and you get the second meal for free. So appreciate that very much. Riverside Cafe will have a complimentary burger and fries at the end of this segment for you to chime in on a fun. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do the trivia yet. I know exactly what the trivia is going to be, but how we're going to do it yet is going to be up in the air for just a few minutes. So stay tuned in for that. 316-721-8255. As you know, every Wednesday we do an update with our Sedgwick County Commission with Jim Howell. He joins the show and just kind of gives us a little blurb on what's happening with the commission, what the commission meeting is going to look like, if you want to chime in, if you want to discuss it, if you want to debate it. And the biggest issue, I never thought that an administrative building would be that big of an issue. I really never thought that that would be that big of a problem. I mean, we look at the best deal, and like he has talked about, I mean, whether we build a new building, whether we renovate an old building and we suit it to our needs, or what we do, because we want to find the cheapest, best way to be able to do it, but also efficient in order for them to have the space and the opportunity for them to get the job done they have to do. So that's been the discussion, and it's been an ongoing discussion for a while. And the question is, what are we going to do? And other than the debate of the potential options that we have and to discuss them, that you would think that that would be just about the end of it. But it's not. And now there's allegations flying around, and it's almost like I don't know about you, I don't watch a whole lot of reality TV, but this almost seems like a reality TV show. We need to have a personal camera follow each one of the county commissioners around on what they're doing and then talk about the issues that are happening at the county commission meeting and the allegations that they throw at one another. According to the Wichita Eagle, Sedgwick County commissioners accused one another of various improprieties Wednesday as they battled over what to do about getting a new government office space. Commission Chairman David Dennis accused an unnamed commissioner, later revealed to be Jim Howell, of improperly negotiating with a property owner who is trying to sell the office building to the county. Quote, it appears an individual commissioner has been in private communications and negotiating about the Riverview building, and I've only been subpoenaed once in my entire life, and that was last fall, as he had talked about, of course, with County Commissioner Michael O'Donnell, which is a whole other issue in itself when it comes to what's happening with Michael O'Donnell and the wire fraud and the bank fraud and everything that he's been indicted on, and more information to come out with that one relatively soon. But was working really closely with the building owners. This goes far beyond that. Howell confirmed that Dennis was talking about him and denied the allegations. He said that he had asked Riverview building owner for some information via email, but had not taken part in any negotiations, deals, or face-to-face talks. Dennis's remarks came about 1 hour after Howell and Commissioner Richard Ranzaw had accused Commissioners Dennis, O'Donnell, and David Unruh of pulling behind-the-scenes move to put part of the plan in motion without telling them. This is getting out of hand. Now, other than wanting to make sure that it's cost-effective for the county, I don't care. And I know a lot of you as the listener that's going to work every day, other than making sure our taxes don't go up in order to compensate for this new building, for the expansion, and to move out of the courthouse, and for them to get the administrative building they need, it's not something that we necessarily care hugely about. We want to make sure that they're set to do their job, and we want to make sure that it's cost effective, and that we don't have to pay for it with our taxes, or that the county doesn't go massively in debt as we discuss this issue. We don't care. Get her done. We like the debate, we like the discussion, and we like them discussing how best to go about it in order to do it in a cost-effective way. Other than that, you going to work right now, I'm pretty sure that you don't care. And I don't necessarily care. Which is why we like to talk about it to give the update. But the inner bickerings, this is reminding me of a reality TV show. And nothing against any of these county commissioners. It's just that's the stage that we've set for ourselves to watch these guys go at it. We need a personal camera to follow these individuals around and to talk about it. And it's almost going to be like, The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, to where, this guy, he's kind of a jerk. And, this guy, he's doing backdoor deals. And, it's kind of entertaining in that sense. And that's about the most entertainment value that we're getting out of it, isn't it? Of their accusing of backdoor dealings. Now, look, if they're negotiating different prices, whether it's behind the scenes or whether it's up front with the county commission, if some of them are trying to negotiate cheaper prices for a building, I don't see a problem with that, as long as it's not just locked and sealed and one person kind of ran away with it and did the whole thing and signed on the dotted line before the rest of the county commission knew about it. That would be an issue. But if they come back and they go to a meeting and say, look, we've been in conversation with this individual, they're willing to negotiate on the price and come down a little bit, and it's going to be a lot cheaper, then, hey, this kind of possibly throws another option back on the table, and we need to address this. This is really as extreme as this needs to be. It's a building. It's an office building. And it's something that the county commission needs, but do we really need the drama behind all of this? Good God, I've never seen, honestly, I got to be honest, I've never seen drama like this for a county commission building. And whether it's the hostility between all the county commissioners and some of them where they try and go at each other, which I know that we've seen for a while because of some of the shenanigans that have been pulled or attempted to be pulled, or I don't know what it is. And maybe we need to get some all the county commissioners on one at a time and talk about this issue and what their take is on it. Because right now, throwing accusations out at one another on backdoor deals of what's going on with this right now is unnecessary, is a little comical and entertaining. But other than that, does more damage to the county than it actually helps the county. I've been very proud of our county, and I have to say this right now. Our county commission I have been very, very proud of since I've been here for the last 3 years, because we are one of the more conservative county commissions that I've ever seen in the county. This is fantastic. We've cut a lot of our spending. We've cut the amount of debt that we're allowed to have and capped off what our debt can be as a county. We've deregulated things left and right. We're focused on the issues that we need to. We've paid for upgrades out of pocket as opposed to getting grants out or getting loans out for these things because we thought it might be cheaper in the long run to be able to pay for a monthly payment as opposed to one lump sum. We've done some really cool things as a county. When I first got here 3 years ago, if you remember, that was really the big budgetary debate when it came to the elephant museum at the zoo. And that was a big thing. And guess what? We have it. And we got it. And we didn't have to get crazy amounts of debt into debt in order to make that happen. And we've done some really, and I'm very proud to all of our county commissioners. I'm very proud of what they've done. This is unnecessary drama. If you have a beef with someone, let's go back to the old school way of calling them out, maybe throwing a few swings, buy each other a beer at the end of the day, and let's go on about our business. That's the kind of way that I roll. Let's spout it out. Let's get it out of our system. Look, when I get in an argument with my wife, which doesn't honestly happen very often, but when we get in an argument, which every couple does, when we get into an argument, I'm one that likes to address it right now. If you got an issue, tell me what the issue is. Have you noticed women do this? I got to go on this tangent for just a second because this almost seems like what's happening with our county commission. When you have an issue, and when a woman has an issue, and she's one of those where you come home and you're like, oh, hi, what's wrong? You should know. I'm not saying my wife always does this, but every woman kind of does this to a degree, right? You should know. What do you mean? Tell me. What is it? Let's address this. No, I'm really upset. I don't want to talk about it. What? You're upset. Which is making me upset because I don't know what's going on. What is it? And then we start the fight about why we're fighting. It happens every once in a while. Again, my wife and I don't argue that much, but every couple does that. And every woman seems to. This is the drama that seems to be going on with our county commission right now. That there's grudges being held from someone over and over and over again. That they bring it up and they try and take little spats at each other once in a while. Get it out of your system. What issues do you have with one another? Throw a few punches outside, buy each other a beer at the pub later on, and then let's be best buds and move on about this. I don't understand why this is such a big issue. It is an office building. Let's try and negotiate and haggle on what we can get for the best prices in order to make this happen, and then let's go about our business, let's get her done, and then let's all be happy and move forward. We need to work as a team. We're all in the same county. We're all in the same team here. Republican, Democrat, to me, it doesn't really matter right now. We are on the same team. We're trying to make our county better. Let's stop the mudslinging. Let's stop the drama. Let's stop the Big Brother, Big Sister reality TV show here, or the Bachelor or Bachelorette reality TV show, whatever you want to call it. Let's address the issues. Let's get her done. If there's behind-the-scenes stuff going on, then that shows the character of the individual. If they're trying to negotiate to be able to bring another opportunity to the table, then why are we criticizing something like that? Let's stop this madness. We don't need it. Unnecessary drama. We have more drama when it comes to elections, like the Ron Estes voting issue with the primary, or we have an issue with the midterms with trying to get more, reality-minded conservatives up there in Topeka to actually vote for less taxes and less spending and actually hold the Supreme Court accountable. That's the kind of drama that we we don't need it, but that's the kind of drama that we have the time for. That's about all the kind of drama that we have the time for, not this kind of drama to where we're worried about a building. Let's get it addressed. What do you say? 316-721-8255. I want to give you the opportunity to get a complimentary burger and fries hat tip to Riverside Cafe. We love those guys very much. Great sponsors, great friends right here on the KQAM airwaves. 2 locations in Wichita, 1 in Derby. And your chance. We always play a little game, and I want to give you a game. Now, I've done this a few times once in a while, but I want you to be able to name that TV show. And I have the theme song which this one should be an easy one. Anybody who's watched this show would automatically know it. It's an older one, which makes it even more favorable to many of our listeners. And if you know it, give me a call right away. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. All you got to do is name the TV show. It's an old school TV show. And you, my friends, get your complimentary burger and fries. The theme song is... Come on, you know it. There it is. Give me a call, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. What was the name of that reality show, or not reality show, but that TV show? You know it. And I got to say, I've been hooked on it lately. It's on Netflix. I've been watching it just about every night. And if you've listened to me say that I've watched it every night for a while, then it would be a very easy one for you. Phones are lighting up. Let's go to caller number 1. Can you name that song and that TV show? Where did it come from? And you'll get your complimentary burger and fries from Riverside Cafe. Line number 1. Let's kick it off. Good morning. What's your name?
Chris.
Hey, Chris. Good morning, sir. What TV show is that song from?
Is that the Dick Van Dyke Show?
Yeah, baby. That's the Dick Van Dyke Show right there. That's a great show, ain't it?
Not bad for a guy who's in his 30s.
Hey, that's what I'm saying. Like I said, it is on Netflix, and I am addicted to the show every night.
I can't blame you.
Every night before I go to bed, I watch 1 or 2 episodes, and I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. Oh, it's good stuff. Hang on the line here. We'll get your information. Don't go anywhere, and we'll get you, my friend, your complimentary burger and fries hat tip to Riverside Cafe. Appreciate that very much. Lots more coming up on the show. Stay here. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
6 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Congratulations to Chris winning your complimentary burger and fries from Riverside Cafe. We'll have another one next Thursday. Kind of a fun one. I got to tell you, there are three shows really right now that I am addicted to. The Dick Van Dyke Show and a couple others. I think you'll laugh at me if I said the others, so I won't say those. But nonetheless, I am addicted to them, and I don't care what anybody says. Let's go to the phones. Phones are lighting up. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK, line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
Morning, Andy. It's Fred.
What's going on, sir?
Hey, just letting you know that northbound 135 at Kellogg is shut down.
Ooh.
5-car accident just happened about 5 minutes ago. Police haven't even arrived yet, but didn't look like anybody was injured, but there's it looks like a couple large trucks and some vehicles involved.
Oh, my gosh.
And traffic's backing up on the ramp to Kellogg. So if you're on Kellogg, setting back probably a mile, you're going to be setting for a while.
On going both directions on Kellogg?
No, this is just it looked like it was just the interchange for the northbound 135.
Okay.
So
Northbound.
yeah, if you're trying to go northbound 135, take something else, because I was not too far back from when it happened. I was able to snake through, but 3 out of 4 lanes are shut down.
Oh my gosh, northbound 135 and Kellogg. I appreciate that update.
Yep.
And yeah, if you are on that one, like you said, try to avoid that area. So I appreciate the update, my friend.
All right, no problem.
Hey,
Bye.
Thank you very much, Fred, for that one. Great information. By the way, if you do ever come across any of that stuff as it happens, we love it when you call and give us that update, and we'll keep you apprised of that the best way we know how. But northbound 135 and Kellogg, stay away from that area and that intersection trying to get on to that Segway. So hang tight there, my friends. If you are, then I guess you just have more time to listen to the show, right? See, always looking for the optimistic side. Let's go back to the phones, 316-721-8255, line number 3. Good morning. What's your name?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I'm Herman.
Yeah, how you doing?
All right, how you doing?
Hey, living the dream, my friend. What you got for us?
I was wondering, you guys are pretty much politically savvy. I was wondering, what if we flipped it to where the government paid taxes and everybody that had lived off, that worked for taxpayer money, did not pay any taxes, that risked their lives?
See? There you go. Make the government pay a little bit. Now, I don't know how the government's going to generate that revenue in order to pay those taxes, but I like the fact that the private sector, if you're working, that you wouldn't kind of pay any kind of tax, or at least we could make it minimal. I mean, I see the need to contribute some to the purpose of what government's supposed to be there for, but I mean, that's wildly
okay. The government gets lobbyists, they throws money at them, make them pay taxes on that.
Sure. I agree with that. I can go with that. You got the lobbyists trying to sway something. Not only are you going to contribute as a lobbyist to try and make some kind of legislation happen, but you're going to have to pay some hefty taxes on that, which may start weeding out some of those crazy special interests that we see in D.C.
Yeah, and then also the government that, like the Congress and the legislative branch, they have a lifetime salary.
Sure.
Cut that off 3 months, just like everybody else.
There you go.
Hey, if you're no longer voted in, you're fired.
You're fired.
3 months, find another job and get your own income.
You know what we need? We need the Donald Trump quote of just coming out and when your term is over, then him coming into your office and saying, "You're fired." I could go with that. I love it. Appreciate the call, my friend. There you go. Keeping government intact, that's the way we need. Let's start squeezing them a little bit. They tighten the girdle on the private sector every day. How about we start tightening the girdle a little bit on themselves? Maybe they wouldn't breathe as lightly as they can because we're struggling. We're suffering. And it's not because the EPA is trying to kill us either. Hour number 3, The Voice Reason's coming up.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
When they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace built into the progressive mindset as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible, so if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. When they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 3 of the Voice of Reason. Boy, this show goes by way too fast. Good golly. We don't have enough time. We need more time. Welcome in, broadcasting live out here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM on TV, simulcasting, KGPT-TV, channel 2610. Welcome in. It's great to have you along today. Rocking and rolling on a pre-Friday celebration. You hear the booming outside with the thunder and the storms. That means that it's an exhilarating kind of day, which means you need to carpe diem all over this daggone place. Clean it up with a mop because you're going to have way too much fun as we work hard to party hard come this weekend. Welcome in. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you. Facebook Live feed, by the way, is up and rolling as well. Just go to facebook.com/1480 KQAM. I want to switch gears just a bit here for hour number 3, as we've heard the rumors, the tweets, the discussion happening in Washington, D.C. when it comes to immigration reform. And we've been hearing some of the comments by some elected officials, how what's going to happen with DACA, what's going to happen with the wall, what's going to happen with enforcement, what's going to happen with some of these sanctuary states and sanctuary cities. And let me tell you something. Why do you think that a pro-Trump Republican ended up winning the nomination for the governorship in California? Probably because even as a left-wing progressive in the state of California, that there's probably not too many people that love this idea of just the open border, sanctuary, defendants, and just protecting all that kind of shenanigans when they see what it's doing to their state, where you have cities of people living in tents because they're homeless. And that's the kind of policy making that high taxes, high regulation, and a pro-illegal immigrant stance has taken the toll on in the state of California. And then what do? They turn around and ban the state-funded travel to states like Oklahoma and Kansas. out here in flyover country, quote unquote. So it's kind of ironic to watch the progressives squirm in their seats and not quite sure how to make all their policies fit together in a nice little happy bow, whereas it's very simple for us conservatives because we understand exactly what it takes. And I'm really excited to have on the program. We love the organization with the Heritage Foundation. They are a solidly conservative organization that fights for the values at the federal level, to talk a little bit about some of the immigration debate and the rumors that are spreading around there on what's happening. He's a policy analyst for with foreign policy for the Heritage Foundation, Mr. David Inserra, on the line with us. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Hey, living the dream. I appreciate you coming on the show. From what you guys have heard, which I know there's not been a lot of details that have floated out as of yet, I would like to see something actually done before the elections. We'll see if that happens or not. But from what you guys have been able to figure out, what do you think's happening with this immigration talk that's kind of risen back up again after a few months?
Yeah, so right now we're in the Capitol Hill is in the midst of I would say behind closed doors meetings on various immigration reform proposals. You may have heard of something called the discharge petition. Essentially, some members of the House, especially the moderate members of the House Republican caucus, are basically promising to force a vote on various immigration bills. And the leadership is trying to sort of head that off by getting everyone in a room and figure out what they can all agree to. But like you said, that's sort of where they go behind closed doors, and we don't know what's going to emerge from that. And I know our worry is that we're going to see some sort of grand bargain that really isn't all that grand, nor is it really a bargain, I would argue, for most Americans, in the way that it's probably going to cut a deal and probably be some sort of give some folks amnesty, and we'll promise we'll get to all the other stuff later. And those promises will usually end up falling through.
That's the way it always seems to happen. It's very ironic because it never seems to change with that kind of mentality. The question is, why now? We tried this at the beginning of the year, 2, 3, 4 months ago. We tried a decent immigration reform discussion when the Democrats first tried it and they threatened to shut down the government. We had the hashtag Schumer shutdown. Then we actually said, fine, you know what? If we're going to discuss immigration, let's discuss it. And I think that we came out with a really solid bill out of the House that had no chance of going in passing in the Senate. And then we started talking about the amnesty and everything that kind of went along with it. And then it just died. The question is, why bring it up now again all of a sudden?
Yeah, so it appears to be that, like I said, it's that the folks who are forcing this are going to be folks, they would probably call themselves more moderate Republicans. I think if you look at where their seats are located for the next election, they think that they need to do this politically. They need to vote for some sort of amnesty because they think that their voters will get behind it. So, because that's really actually, when you look at what their demands are, what they're saying, we just want legal status for folks. We want, in fact, now it's citizenship for folks who are here illegally. So it seems to be something that's driven by, they might sort of have believed, they might have been, sympathetic to amnesty, but now they're like, they think they need it for an election, despite the fact that they're not actually spending, from my perspective, that's sort of the wrong way to be going about this debate. Why don't we start with all the other parts of immigration, right? Like the enforcement, the border security. What do we want to do to the legal immigration system? Those are all sort of essential reforms that those should be what Congress should be focusing on, right? Because that's kind of like the core responsibility of Congress to, have immigration laws and enforce them. Mm-hmm. But they don't want to discuss those first. Instead, they're dead set on this amnesty first sort of pathway.
Unbelievable. So this is not sounds like a good thing in any way, shape, or form. And as you mentioned, we're not going to get a solid bill. We tried it before and it didn't happen. It was even tough to get the decent immigration reform bill out of the House, let alone actually get through the Senate. Now, where did this originate? Is this coming out of the Senate or out of the House from the original discussions, or both?
Yeah, so this is primarily out of the House. Like I said, it's called the discharge petition is what's forcing this, and that's a complicated legislative tactic that exists only in the House, where basically they're going around House leadership, they're going around sort of the committee process, and if the leadership doesn't give them a vote on a bill that they like, these folks are going to sign a discharge petition. Then all the Democrats will sign the discharge petition, and then basically we'll get, it's called Queen of the Hill. It is literally a mad dash for votes, and there'll be lots of votes, and you have no idea what's going to come out of the House after that. For all you know, you could have the most left-leaning Democratic version of an amnesty come out of the House of Representatives right now, because we just don't know we don't know what the process could end up looking like.
Well, being a Republican majority in the House and in the Senate, but just by a couple of votes, but let's focus on the House for a second. Being a Republican majority, if we pass a piece of legislation like this and we end up having Republicans majoritively support this, or just enough of them to squeak through a bill to be able to get to the Senate, and as you mentioned, being moderate, it's got a more chance to be able to go through the Senate there as well. But if we start giving amnesty to DACA recipients, and we start allowing them to have that legal status, and we start giving amnesty to individuals that have been here illegally, and we start going down this road, wouldn't we think, or wouldn't the Republicans stop and sit back for a second and just think for a second that if they supported something like this, that may not fare well in the midterm elections coming up?
Yeah, it seems to be that they think that they can get, people on one side if they do an amnesty, but they don't seem to consider the fact that the past election that we just had, immigration was a big issue, and most of the conversation there was about border security, proper enforcement of our laws, looking at the legal immigration system. These were some of the promises that Republicans were talking about and conservatives were talking about, just a couple of years ago. And now all of a sudden, it's all those promises, all those main legislative concerns that people had in the last election. It's now as though those concerns aren't the important ones. It's really just a question of what do we do about DACA. Mm-hmm. It's an amazing reversal, as you point out. You can't think there's going to be a lot of conservatives who would be very upset with amnesty first legislation going forward, and all their other priorities sort of being given the second seat that we'll get to you later kind of treatment.
Well, and it almost seems like the Republicans are in that state of desperation. They've heard over and over and over again that there's this blue wave coming with the midterm elections. Predominantly midterm elections don't favor the majority party very well, and that they're concerned about that. And I don't know if this is the last desperate attempt to try and win over some of the moderates that are going to think, or at least in their minds, that they're going to think that they're going to win them over. But historically, that's been proven extremely inaccurate. Every time we try and go with the moderate, let's try and play wishy-washy and let's start giving into some of the agenda of the progressives, then that actually harms the Republican Party all over again. We're not showing the leadership that we've been needing, and it's really kind of a pathetic situation. I know you guys with the Heritage Foundation have been fighting for the conservative opportunities and options up there. What can we do, or what have you guys been able to try and do to try and, if we are going to address immigration, at least try to include some of that into these discussions?
Yeah, so exactly right. So we say that good policy often makes for good politics. So we don't do politics per se, but we look at the policy. What can we do that's just fundamentally good on the issue of immigration? And the reality is that we've got significant needs on the enforcement side, right? There's talk about, we still haven't gotten whatever we want to do with border security yet. That's still sort of left hanging. We still don't really even have these loopholes that make it really difficult for our ICE officers to enforce the laws. You mentioned sanctuary cities. There are lots of policies we can address that will close those loopholes and make it our enforcement and border security much stronger. That's something we should be looking at. But Republicans and conservatives can also be, looking at this. How can we also, if they're worried about, immigration and immigrant votes and those folks, why don't we also say, well, look, we can make changes to the legal immigration system. Right now, it's all about family-based immigration. That's the nature of our system. Why don't we make it more merit-based? Why don't we make it so that someone comes here because they've got a job offer, because we've put them through, so we've looked at their application and we say this person deserves to come to the United States. They didn't just win a lottery or something like that.
Exactly.
We can make changes that are still pro-immigration, but make more sense for America. And these are the type of reforms that, unfortunately, it looks like they're sort of, they're not getting the full attention they deserve right now because everything is about amnesty.
Exactly. We're talking with David Inserra, Heritage Foundation, policy analyst with the Heritage Foundation. The big question is, do you guys see, you're in D.C., you're kind of tracking a lot of the stuff, not only the discussions, but kind of the feel and the environment there as well. Do you guys sense a quote-unquote blue wave when it comes to this midterm election this year, or do you see the opposite? Because I have yet to see the blue wave at any type of the primaries that we've seen, with the number of votes turning out, with the activism turning out. I really don't see a whole lot of change, and if anything, I start seeing momentum kind of on the Republican side and the conservative side. Are you guys seeing the same thing, or do you guys have kind of a different perspective?
Yeah, when we look at what's going on out in the country, I think first of all it's clear that polls can be misleading. Clearly, they've got some things wrong last time. The conventional wisdom was not right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we should always take the conventional wisdom with a grain of salt. We should take a look at the polls and see what they're saying, but that doesn't mean we have to accept them, whole hog. Furthermore, I think you look at other sort of fundamentals. Look at the economy. Look at other things which affect people's bottom lines. That's what people are doing fairly well. You're seeing pretty good job numbers and things out there. Those are things which I think Americans are sincerely valuing and sincerely looking at when they go to the polls. So I just look at it and say we should maybe take a step back, take the conventional wisdom of what's out there with a grain of salt right now.
Sure, absolutely. Last couple questions. I know that you're busy on time. We are as well, but I got to ask, if, let's say, worst case scenario, this immigration bill goes through the House and it is full of just the amnesty and the DACA extensions and legal residency and all this crazy stuff that's going to really upset the base of the Republican Party right now and the Trumpers and the pro-Trump individuals and even just the basic conservative Republican. Let's say it goes through both chambers, they're able to squeak it enough. Do you think the president would sign something like that, or do you think he would stand firm on his campaign message of, we're not going to give in on this, we will build the wall and we will begin enforcing the border and immigration policy?
Yeah, I think it comes down to what other provisions are in the bill, and this is where, like I said, the myriad of options here make it difficult to pin down. But I think the president has been fairly consistent in saying that he wants significant changes to enforcement and loopholes and border security and things of that nature before he looks at any of these things. And so I think he's going to have to. There's going to have to be something in there that meets his priorities before he signs something. And I certainly hope that members of the House and the Senate recognize that voting on something that then just divides the party and gets a veto from the president, or maybe it can't make it out of the Senate, but it could make it out of the House. Mm-hmm. That kind of division is ultimately, I don't think, going to be very helpful for just the conservative policy, conservative movement moving forward the next couple of years.
Sure, absolutely. David Inserra, Heritage Foundation, we appreciate you joining us very much, sir. Keep up the good fight. We absolutely love the Heritage Foundation, what you guys do up there, so we appreciate that. We'd love to get you back on again.
Thank you.
Hey, appreciate it very much. 21 minutes past the hour. It's open line to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason on a pre-Friday celebration, baby. Let's stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
27 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Thanks again to David Inserra with the Heritage Foundation joining us. We love chatting with them any chance that we get. This is crazy. This is absolute madness. When you hear about immigration reform debates at the federal, you kind of think, or at least I think, hey, maybe we'll solve something. I heard a phone call in an earlier show earlier this morning that said conservatives actually are trying to obstruct because they don't want immigration reform to be done, which is crazy because you and I, as the conservatives, we're more frustrated and angry than really anybody else. We want something to be done right now. We want to stop illegal immigrants from coming across the border, like now. We want to build the wall. We want to enforce immigration. Did you know that for the month of May, over 50,000 arrests were made in 1 month? 50,000 arrests made in the month of May for the third month in a row by the Department of Homeland Security said as of yesterday about U.S. border agents arresting illegal aliens coming across the border. 50,000 in 1 month. That is insane. And the progressives turn around and say, we don't have a problem. We need to let more people come in. And then we need to give them amnesty. And then we need to give them legal status. And then we need to allow them to vote. And we need this. Are you kidding me? Give me a break. 50,000 in 1 month, and that's 3 months in a row. I don't know how well you are on math, and maybe you went through Common Core, but that's over 150,000 people. 150,000 people in 1 quarter of the year in 3 months. And you're telling me we don't have an illegal immigration problem. And you know why? Is because we haven't done a thing about it. If you remember, as soon as President Donald Trump got elected, that the number of people crossing the border went down. It dropped. It was like a cliff. They dropped dramatically. We saw, like, what was it? They dropped close to like 60, 70%, if I remember correct, of the number of people trying to cross the border on a monthly basis, and now it's starting to peak back up and starting to climb. Why? Because we've had over a year where we haven't done a thing. We said we were going to build the wall. We said we were going to enforce it. We said we were going to be tough on illegal immigration. We said that if you were here illegally, we're not going to give you legal status. We said that we're going to punish individuals for being a DACA recipient, and you're going to have an opportunity, but you're not going to sit on this kind of government project anymore, or government program. It ain't going to happen. We said we were going to do it, have we? Haven't done a thing. Republican majority, Republican president, Republican or conservative somewhat-ish Supreme Court. Haven't done a thing. So, they saw us as all bark and no bite. What are they doing? Coming back up. $50,000 a month for the last 3 months, trying to come across the border that we've arrested. Now, that's not considering the people that we haven't arrested. Lots more coming up. This is The Voice of Reason. Got some calls on the line. Stay here. We'll get to you as soon as we come back on The Voice of Reason.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Right on! Let's do it! Rock that world! Rock that world!
Give him a call at 721-TALK.
Boy, that's what we're talking about, baby. Getting you pumped up, excited. I want you feeling like Arnold Schwarzenegger every time you go to work, because you're pumped up and excited for the day, for the work day, for the political day, whatever may be in store for you today. 36 minutes past the hour. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, wrapping up the show today, it is open lines to you for the last half hour. Although I do want to ask you, what do we do about this immigration debate? Because right now, I don't know if it's the smartest thing to bring up. I think we need to address it. I wish we would address it. I wish we could address it. But are we going to? Probably not in the way that we want. We had a solid bill out of the House, and I think if they're going to bring it up, just revive that one. But this is outside of leadership, which I don't have a whole lot of faith in leadership anyways. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, we got some issues on that front anyways. But if at least they would be able to try and organize something a little bit. But this almost sounds like a coup that's happening from within the Republican ranks to try and do something because they're scared about their districts. As moderate Republicans that they are, as the establishment moderate rhino Republicans, whatever you want to call them, it sounds like they're almost desperate, and they're going outside of the ranks of the Republican Party to try and address something that doesn't need to be addressed at this second, the way that they're doing it, in order to ram through a vote, in order to give amnesty, in order to give legal residency, in order to give all these things that the progressives want, in order to try and salvage their own elections come midterm season. Now, tell me how that makes sense in any way, shape, or form. Let me ask you something. And I know we have Democrats and progressives that listen to this show, and we love that, and we thank you for that. Let me ask you something. If you are a progressive, if you are a Democrat, if you are on the left side of the aisle, and you heard a Republican turn around and say, you know what, I saw the light, I saw the vision, I saw what you guys are going for, I don't want to be heartless, I understand the need for it, I'm going to advocate and vote for this bill and go around my own party and give amnesty to illegal aliens, would you support that Republican, or would you still vote for that Democrat in that race coming up in the midterm? Would that change your vote? Because the Democrat has a long line of actually advocating for that. They have that long history of actually wanting to give amnesty, wanting to be the heart-filled, lovey-dovey type of ignoring rule of law and common sense and just giving people amnesty. They have that long record of advocating and pushing for that. Now, if a Republican all of a sudden, worried about an election, comes around and starts wavering on his principles and says, okay, I'm going to give that amnesty, would that soften your heart to the Republican for you to say, oh, okay, I vote Republican? Or would you say, yeah, that's nice, great, thanks. That's one less thing that we actually have to address when we're in power, and I'm still going to vote for the Democrat. Would that change your mind? Because I'm very curious about that. The Republicans, for whatever reason, for so many years, there are so many Republicans that are and I hate to say this, it breaks my heart, but they are absolutely spineless. Absolute. I respect people that stand on principle and that stand for what they believe in, even when the odds are against them. Even when the odds are against them, every single time that they try and bring up the issue. I bring up marijuana on this show and just watch the phones blow up and call me, a non-conservative because I don't believe in the legalization of marijuana. But you know what? I'm in the minority, but I'm not going to change my mind on it. It's a fun debate. It's good to know. It's a great conversation to have. I'm not going to change my thoughts and my view on marijuana. That's just not going to happen. But I respect you for calling in and standing your ground and believing it on it as well. I respect people. I know progressives as well. I know many progressives that are big-time Bernie Sanders-ites that respect me for the fact that I stand my ground. I know what I'm talking about, and I don't waver on my stance. And I don't mind going head-to-head and having that discussion. We respect people that show strength, which goes into the whole, respecting Vladimir Putin, too, and then thinking that Putin's just part of the team. When he's not, we respect them because you have to show respect to people that are strong, to people that are stern. You show that respect to them. Doesn't mean you like them or you agree with them, but you respect them because of who they are or what they've done. We need to stand firm. And if these Republicans that are trying to vote on immigration reform and trying to change their minds and give this amnesty and vote for the progressive side and give the Democrats whatever they want to, and they're trying to do that in order to win over people, then that shows the sleaziness of what they believe in as opposed to the sternness of them actually standing on a principle and saying, I'm not going to support that. I'm just not going to do it. I've lost respect for you. You've then lost respect to the base of the Republican Party you're trying to keep, and you still haven't won a Democrat over. As far as I'm aware, maybe I'm wrong, and if you're a Democrat, I want to hear from you, and if you're progressive and you would respect a Republican for that, and you would openly say that I would choose to vote for the Republican over the Democrat in a general election because the Republican did the agenda of the Democrat for me, would you do that? Because that doesn't make any sense to me. But yet that seems to be in the dire straits of the panic mode that the Republican sometimes goes into in certain elections around the country, is that's the mode they go into. Let's give the Democrats whatever they want to and try and play nicely and try and play all happy hunky-dory and to win over the independents, moderates, and Democrats. And it just doesn't work. It didn't work with John McCain. It didn't work with Mitt Romney. It doesn't work anywhere when you do the Democrat thing as a Republican and then try and win over people under the Republican Party and say, yeah, I'm going to support Republicanism, but I'm trying to win over Democrats too. First off, it doesn't make any sense. Second off, it just doesn't work. 316-721-8255. Let's go right to the phones as they are lighting up line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
Me?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Hi. My name is Mike.
Hey, Mike.
I'm not trying to be argumentative. Can you explain to me the rationale for the separation of children from their parents at the border? That's my question.
The rationale is that we do the same for anybody else that breaks the law and gets in trouble. I mean, if you don't want to be separated from your family and from the children.
Do you agree with it? Do you agree with that policy?
Absolutely. 100%.
They'll never see their kids again, and you think that's all right?
Well, they shouldn't have broken the law.
Right. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I mean, we can continue on the discussion if you want to. But, I mean, the same thing if a drug addict is a parent, and, I mean, we saw the stories of numerous people doing drugs that have children, then if you're a drug addict and we arrest you for doing drugs and you're in jail for 20, 30 years and you don't see your children then you know what? It's the same situation. If you broke the law, then you're going to get in trouble for it. And if you have children in the situation, then that's terrible and unfortunate for the children. It's not the children's fault that you broke the law, but it is sure as hell your fault for breaking the law. Absolutely. Tear them apart, and maybe, just maybe, that would bring in a little bit of sense to the parents and saying, you know what, I'm actually trying to better my children and actually trying to make a better life for the children. It goes back to even the DACA situation. The DACA recipients are now my age. They're the millennials. They're close to 25, 30 years old. They've been here for a while. At what point do we stop blaming the parents for bringing them here illegally? Because you're right, it's not their fault when they came here as a child. They've been here for 20, 30 years now. They're now adults. They now have their own children, and they never rectified the situation. So whose fault is that to blame? So when we start arresting someone for being an illegal because their DACA license expired, they're now an illegal immigrant because they're here unregistered, undocumented, they didn't renew their licenses, now they're in trouble, and we arrest them. Oh, you can't separate that family. They've been a lifelong member of the country here. They have their family here. They've raised their family here. They now have children. You can't separate them. Really? Maybe they should have thought of that when they had their family and started their family and had kids here in the country. And they should have said, oh, gee, this might come back to bite me. Maybe I should rectify this and fix this situation to ensure that I'm taking care of my family. We have forgotten the personal responsibility aspect to this. Yes, if you get stopped on the border and you have children with you and you've broken the law and you get arrested, tear the family apart. It's heartbreaking. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a heartless jerk here. It's heartbreaking, but maybe they should have thought of that. Maybe that should have crossed their mind when they said, you know what, I'm going to try and break the law with my family. I'm just trying to better my family. Well, you should have bettered your family in a way that's not breaking the law. Because, and this is another concept that maybe I'm completely spacing, the light bulb's not clicking with me, but if you're trying to better your family, why would you better your family knowing that you have to look over your shoulder the entire time to better your family when you're coming into a country that you want to live in and start a family and start your life with, because the American dream and the streets paved with gold and the whole thing? Why would you do that knowing that you're doing it when not the proper way, so that way you're always having to run, you're always having to keep your head down? Why would you do that? If you're going to live the American dream and have the streets paved with gold and have all the opportunities in the world for you, because this is the greatest nation on the face of the earth, if you're going to have all those opportunities open up for you, why would you actually cut yourself off from half of them because you do it illegally and break the law? Oh, it's still better than where we came from. Well, you know what? Then fix where you came from or come here in the proper steps. But I have no problem with tearing those families apart, because we do it every single day with anybody that breaks the law at any time that gets arrested, and it should be the responsibility of the parents to think about that before they actually break the law and actually get torn away from their kids. Your thoughts on that? Maybe I'm a heartless jerk, but I have respect for the law, and when you actually follow the law, then you actually get to enjoy the benefits of the law abidingness with you and your entire family, including the children, and you never get torn away from them. It's a wild concept, I know. Let's go to the phones here, get your thoughts on this. 316-721-8255, line at number 2. Good morning, what's your name?
Hi, Andy, this is Helen.
Helen, how are you?
I'm doing just great.
Good.
Well, God has laws against illegal immigration. Deuteronomy 27, verse 17. Cursed be he, that's any person of any age, that removeth his neighbor's landmark, that's his borders, boundary lines, territory, and all the people shall say amen. These people are cursed, and they're going to curse our nation because they're coming here. They don't respect us. They don't respect God. They're ungodly people coming over here. We already have enough ungodly people in the United States. We don't need a whole bunch more.
Well, there you go, Helen. Appreciate it very much. 316-721-8255, line number 3. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Ron.
Ron, what's going on, sir? How are you?
Oh, listening to all this morning, what needs to happen, and so they won't have to worry about this separation, is you repatriate them at the border, them and their family. You turn them around and send them back where they came from. You don't bring them in so that we go through this mess of separation and we say, you got a court date in a couple of weeks or a month, come back and see us, right?
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Oh, they didn't show up. Gee, I wonder what happened to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is that we need to shut off all immigration in this country until we can get assimilation. They did it in 1921, I believe it was, and because they weren't assimilating. And that's what's happening now. They're not assimilating.
Why would you assimilate?
We're in our third generation of English learners, kids that were born here in this country that don't speak English.
You're right. I mean, why? What's the incentive for them to learn to speak English and to assimilate to the culture of America and to the society that they moved to, when the very first thing they did when they stepped foot on American soil was break the law? What's the incentive for them then to turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to assimilate because this is kind of a cool culture and in a great country, and I'm going to learn everything that I can about this country in order to be able to function in it appropriately, when the very first thing you did when you stepped foot across that arbitrary line that some people try and laugh at is you broke the law and broke the basic rule of law that we have, is come here in the proper steps. And you're right. I mean, we're not assimilating to society, and then we start seeing the tribalism happen even within the nation.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, this vote that's coming up, if they get to a vote on immigration and they screw it up, I'm going to have to seriously think about whether or not where I'm going with the Republican Party from there.
Well, I'm hoping that we have enough reason and common sense and conservatives in there to be able to stop this and not allow it to go through, and that maybe this is a bit of the fringe moderate Republicans in a desperate state just thinking about the midterms, worried about this blue wave or whatever it is, but we can actually stop this in its tracks, and then we can go through the election process, get some more conservatives in, then we can refocus it and readdress immigration and actually get it done the right way. That's what we need to do, and we need to be calling our elected officials to try and encourage that type of behavior.
Thanks for all you do, Andy.
Ron, I appreciate it very much. Love the call. Thank you. Let's go to line number 4. Good morning. What's your name?
It's Gary.
Gary, what's going on, sir?
Hey, just a couple of quick points, if I could. Wasn't there didn't I remember seeing some children all marching in a line coming up here through Mexico?
There was, the caravan that came up, and then, they always have all the children. It's always about the children, right? It's always about the innocent children that are coming up, and we need to take care of the children, right?
They get separated from their parents at that point. But also the thing, the devil's in the details. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about exactly when separating the children from their parents. We need to define the citizenship.
Sure.
Just because somebody come here illegally and had a child, that child should not be considered a citizen.
Sure. No, I agree. But just because you walked onto the line and that's where you had the baby, because you had the baby physically in a certain nation, does not automatically make them a citizen, unless, of course, one of the parents is a U.S. citizen. And I know that even conservatives and some libertarians argue on this sense, but the 14th Amendment and that argument of the natural born and the birthright citizenship does not play. If you're already pregnant and you are not a citizen, the parents and neither one of the parents are citizens, you come across the border and all of a sudden you have a baby. Now it's called the quote-unquote anchor baby to try and keep the family here because you don't want to tear that family apart. That's not how this intention was. That's not the way this nation actually is, and that's not what we need to be advocating for.
Okay, and so is that the issue that the debate is over? I mean, is that the circumstances under which the children are separated from their parents argument?
No, that's part of it, and that's where really that started years back when we started talking about the anchor babies, but we're even talking about the family coming across the border as the family and then being stopped on the border and saying, oh, you know what, well, the kids, it's not really their fault because you're living in bad situations, so we'll take the kids and bring them into the country, but you know what, the parents, we're going to arrest you and ship you back sort of thing and trying to split up the family that way. And Ron brought up the good point of, oh, you know what, no, let's send the entire family back and split them up. But if you have the quote-unquote anchor baby, and if the law, as of right now, even though how wrong it may be, says that baby is a naturally born citizen, then we're going to send the parents back and split up that family. I don't care what we're talking about. I don't care if we're talking about the DACA recipient that has the family now that's been here for 30 years, that their DACA expired, they're still an illegal immigrant, they never went through the naturalization process, and we end up finding them, sending them back, and they have their American family that is here, that we split them apart. I don't care. They've broken the law, and we need to punish them for doing such a thing.
Well, I think it's just crazy not to send the whole family back. If the family, the adults come with their children, and to send the adults back and not the children with them, that's just insane. That's my take. Thank you.
Gary, I appreciate it. I'm right there with you. Look, I know it sounds heartless. And the first response when I say something like that is, okay, you don't care about the family unit. Of course I do. The family is the most precious thing, and we talk about on the show about the family values. We talk about keeping the family together. The only way you're going to keep the family together is if you don't break the law. That's a foreign concept today? Don't break the law. We have rules in place. We have laws in place. We have laws to not murder people. We have laws to not kidnap people. We have laws to not do drugs, no matter what drug we're talking about right now. We have laws to say don't do drugs. We have laws to say you're not allowed to come here illegally, that you need to go through a process, whether it's a work visa, a student visa, a temporary green card, a naturalization process, whatever it is, we have these laws in place. Do they need refined a little bit? Sure, let's discuss that. But as of right now, that's the law. And if you don't want to split the family apart because you do believe in those family values and keeping the family together, then follow the law. A wild, crazy concept. I just don't understand why that's so hard for some to grasp. And then we sound heartless and we sound like we don't care and we sound like we're jerks when we advocate for that, because we're not. We're actually the heart-filled ones trying to keep the family together and keeping you to where you're not in violation of the law so the family can stay together. Crazy concept, I know. Some have a really hard time grasping that. I get it, I don't get it, but I want to try to get it. I want to try to understand that. Still waiting, by the way, for a Democrat to say that they would vote for a Republican if the Republican betrayed other Republicans to support Democratic policy when they could just vote for a Democrat. If you would do that, I'd still love to hear from you on that. 6 minutes at the top of the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Wrapping up the show today. I know we're the Heartless Jerks. Listener on Facebook, I believe the Republicans are doing their best to lose the House. That way they can say their hands are tied, they can't do anything about it, and then they can try to play the obstructionist. That's what Republicans have seemed to be doing best at the federal level by wanting to. They do a lot better being the obstructionist and saying, well, if we only had the majority, we could do something about it, but we can't. We'll let it go through the committees. We'll get it to the floor. We'll vote no. We know that we don't have enough votes to stop it. And then we can say, oh, we tried. That's where we're at right now, which means we need some changes when it comes to the midterm elections this year. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason. Have a great Thursday, everybody.